They laughed when she stepped off the transport. 19 years old, barely 5'4", carrying a rifle case that looked too heavy for her frame. The kind of laughter that cuts through frozen air like broken glass. Blackridge City had already devoured 48 soldiers without leaving bodies behind. Whatever haunted those ruins didn't discriminate. And yet here she was, no rank insignia, no unit patch, just a slim case and eyes that didn't flinch when the wind screamed. Then the radio crackled. "Ghost 13 is online." One shot split the silence. The laughter died. Because in the next 3 hours, these men would learn what the enemy already knew. The girl they mocked wasn't prey. She was the reckoning they'd been waiting for. Before we begin, if you're watching this, drop a comment with your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're here for the full ride, hit that like button and stick around until the end. Trust me, you won't see this coming. The snow didn't fall in Blackridge, it attacked. Horizontal sheets of white that turned visibility into a suggestion that made every breath taste like iron and cold. The kind of weather that turned men into corpses if they stayed still too long. Sergeant Nolan Pierce had seen 3 winters in the Northern Theater, and this one felt different. Wrong. Like the city itself was exhaling something toxic. He stood at the rally point, watching his platoon check gear with the mechanical precision of men who'd stopped believing in clean victories. 32 soldiers. Good men, mostly. Tired men, definitely. They'd been told this was a recovery operation, standard sweep and extract. But the briefing officer's eyes had told a different story, the kind that ended with body bags and questions nobody wanted to answer. "Sarge?" Pierce turned. Corporal Danny Hayes stood there, breath fogging, rifle slung low. 23 years old, but carrying himself like someone who'd already seen too much. His left hand had a tremor he thought nobody noticed. "Transport's rolling in," Hayes said. "Got our specialist." Specialist. Pierce rolled the word around like a bad taste. "They send us one person for a city that ate an entire company?" Hayes shrugged. "Above our pay grade." The transport was a Grizzly-class armored carrier, designed to take hits from anything short of anti-tank rounds. It rumbled through the checkpoint with snow spraying off its treads, then hissed to a stop 30 meters out. The rear hatch dropped. Someone stepped out. Pierce's first thought, they sent us a civilian. She couldn't have been more than 19. Small frame, maybe 5'4" on a good day. Dark hair pulled back tight, no helmet yet, just a black watch cap dusted with snow. She wore standard combat fatigues, but they looked 2 sizes too big, like she'd borrowed someone else's kit. The only thing that fit properly was the rifle case strapped across her back, matte black, weatherproof, custom. She walked toward them with her head down, not hurrying, not scanning her surroundings. Just walking, like she was heading to a library instead of a frozen hellscape where men vanished. "Jesus Christ," Hayes muttered. "They sent us a kid." Behind them, Corporal Marcus Webb, 6'2" of South Boston attitude and arms thick enough to bend rebar, let out a laugh that echoed off the ruins. "Yo, Sarge, someone's daughter get lost on her way to boot camp?" The platoon stirred. Grins, low comments, the kind of noise that happens when tension meets absurdity. She kept walking, didn't react, didn't even look up. "Hey," Webb called out. "Little girl, quartermaster's that way. We're kind of busy here." She stopped 10 feet away, finally lifted her eyes. That's when Pierce felt it. Something in his gut that had kept him alive through 3 deployments suddenly whispering, "Pay attention." Her eyes weren't scared, weren't angry, weren't anything. Just flat, calm. The kind of calm that came after fires burned out. "Sergeant Pierce?" Her voice was quiet. Midwest accent, the kind you'd hear ordering coffee, not calling artillery strikes. "That's me," Pierce said. "And you are?" "Your specialist." She reached into her jacket, pulled out a thin data card, handed it over. "Orders." Pierce slotted the card into his tac pad. The screen lit up with clearance codes he'd never seen before. Black level authorization, direct from Northern Command. 3 lines of text. Operational call sign, Ghost. 13 tasking, Overwatch/priority. Elimination command, authority, full tactical autonomy. He read it twice, looked at her, at the men watching, back at the screen. This some kind of joke? No, sir. You've got autonomous command authority. That means you can override me in the field. If necessary. She said it like she was confirming the weather forecast. Hayes stepped closer, reading over Pierce's shoulder. Overwatch? You're a sniper? Yes. How old are you? Old enough to be here. Webb laughed again, but it sounded forced now. Nah, seriously, how many deployments you got, kid? This your first rodeo? She looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice hadn't changed. Still quiet, still flat. Corporal Webb, 57th Infantry, 2nd Battalion, you transferred in 4 months ago after your previous unit took 60% casualties at Frost Valley. You've got a daughter named Sarah, 7 years old. You keep her picture in your left cargo pocket and you touch it every time you think nobody's watching? Webb's face drained. How the hell? I read files, she said simply. It's my job to know who I'm working with. Silence dropped like a hammer. Pierce felt the shift, the platoon going from amused to uncertain. You got a name? He asked. Or do we just call you Ghost? Ash. She unslung the rifle case, set it down carefully in the snow. Ash Keller. Keller. Hayes was scrolling through something on his pad now, frowning. I'm not finding you in any database. You won't. She knelt, started unlocking the case with movements that looked rehearsed, muscle memory. Most of my record is redacted. Convenient, Webb muttered. The case opened. Inside, nestled in custom foam, a rifle that made Pierce's eyebrows rise. It was a Remington MSR, but modified beyond factory specs. Custom barrel, competition-grade trigger assembly, optics that probably cost more than his truck. The kind of weapon you didn't get issued, the kind you earned. She assembled it without looking, barrel locked, scope mounted, magazine seated. 7 seconds, start to finish. Holy shit, someone whispered behind them. Ash stood, rifle in hand, and finally looked at the city. Blackridge stretched ahead, skeletal towers clawing at a gray sky, streets choked with snow and debris, windows like dead eyes watching them. The wind howled through broken concrete. 48 men went in, she said quietly. None came out. Last transmission was 16 hours ago. Broken. No useful intel. She glanced at Pierce. Your orders are to sweep the North Quadrant, locate survivors, extract if possible. That's right. You won't find anyone in the North Quadrant. Pierce stiffened. Excuse me? The enemy's been moving south for 3 days. Supply routes, defensive positions, prisoner holding. It's all concentrated in the southern industrial sector. Your men go north, you'll find empty buildings and tripwires. Waste of time. Probably get someone killed. Hayes stepped forward. Hold on. You just got here. You haven't seen any intel. I've seen satellite thermal from 6 hours ago. Movement patterns, heat signatures, radio intercepts. Ash's voice stayed level. Northern Command wanted you to sweep north because it's safe. Low probability of contact. Looks good in a report. But if you actually want to find survivors, we go south. Southern sector's hot, Pierce said. That's contested ground. We go in there, we're starting a fight. You'll start a fight anywhere you go, Sergeant. Question is whether you want it to mean something. The wind picked up. Snow devils spun across the street. Webb shook his head. Nah, I'm not taking orders from some... You're not, Ash cut him off. You're taking orders from Sergeant Pierce. I'm just telling you where the targets are. And how the hell would you know? She looked at him, really looked at him. And for just a second, Pierce saw something flicker in those flat eyes. Something old. Something that didn't belong in a face that young. Because, Ash said quietly, I've been watching this city for 3 days. I know where they sleep, where they eat, where they think they're safe. She turned back to Pierce. I know where they're keeping the prisoners. And I know we've got maybe 8 hours before those men die. So you can follow your orders and sweep empty buildings. Or you can trust me and actually save lives. The silence stretched. 32 soldiers watching, waiting. Pierce had a rule. Trust your gut. It had kept him breathing when Doctrine said he should be dead, and right now his gut was screaming at him, not danger exactly, more like, this matters. Pay attention. He looked at the data card's clearance codes again. Black level. The kind of authorization that came from people who didn't make mistakes. All right, he said. We go south, but you stay with me. I want eyes on you at all times. Ash's expression didn't change. You won't have eyes on me, Sergeant. That's not how I work. Then how? I'll be on comms. Channel 7, encrypted. You'll hear me when I need you to hear me. Otherwise, she picked up her rifle case, now empty except for spare magazines and equipment. Otherwise, you won't know I'm there. That's not acceptable, Hayes said. We need coordination. We need... The radio on Pierce's vest crackled. A voice came through, quiet, clear, feminine. Ghost 13 is online. Comms check. Over. Every head turned to Ash. She stood 10 feet away, rifle slung, hands at her sides. Her lips hadn't moved. She wasn't touching her radio. Hayes fumbled for his handset. How are you? Your mouth didn't... Ash tapped her throat. A small device there, almost invisible against her skin. Subvocal transmitter. Military black market tech that picked up throat vibrations, let you broadcast without making sound. Like I said, she murmured, and this time they heard it both ways. Her actual voice, thin in the wind, and simultaneously through their radios, clear as glass. You won't know I'm there. She turned and started walking toward the city, just like that. No waiting for approval, no asking permission. Webb looked at Pierce. Sarge, you gonna let her just move out, Pierce said. His voice came out harder than he meant. Standard formation. Hayes, take point. Webb, your rear security. Everyone else, stay tight. We're going hunting. The platoon fell in. Combat interval. Weapons ready. Eyes scanning. Ash was already 50 meters ahead, moving through the ruins like she'd walked these streets before. No hesitation, no checking corners, just smooth, steady progress deeper into the dead city. This is insane, Hayes muttered, moving up beside Pierce. We don't know anything about her. She could be exactly what the brass sent us, Pierce said. Now shut up and watch your sector. They entered Blackridge. Up. The streets were worse up close. Buildings sagged like broken teeth. Cars buried in snow, frozen in their last moments of panic. Storefronts with shattered windows, their interiors black and empty. And everywhere, the sense of being watched. Pierce had felt it before, in Kandahar, in Mosul, that pressure between your shoulder blades that said someone has a scope on you. But this was different. This felt patient, like the city itself was waiting to see what they'd do. Ash moved ahead, sometimes visible, sometimes not. She'd disappear behind a corner and Pierce's heart would jump. Then she'd reappear 2 buildings down, crouched by a blown-out truck, scanning. No hand signals, no communication, just movement. 20 minutes in, she stopped, held up a closed fist. The platoon froze. Pierce's pulse kicked up. What have you got? He said into his radio. Silence, then, don't move. Her voice was different now. No inflection, pure command. Ghost, I need more than... Sergeant, nobody moves, not one step. Hayes was 5 meters ahead, rifle up, sweeping left. He turned to look back at Pierce, confusion on his face. What's she... Hayes, Ash's voice cut through. Freeze. He did. Something in her tone left no room for argument. 10 seconds of silence, wind howling, snow falling, then crack. A single shot split the air, not close, distant, maybe 200 meters, and a body fell from a 3rd-story window directly above where Hayes was standing. It hit the pavement with a wet crunch. Enemy combatant, winter camo, Dragunov rifle still clutched in dead hands. The back of his skull was missing. Hayes stumbled backward, staring. Holy shit! The radio crackled, Ash's voice, calm. Sniper was tracking you for 40 seconds, waiting for a clean shot. He's done waiting now. Pierce's mouth went dry. Where are you? Overwatch. Keep moving. I've got your 6. How did you... Hayes was still staring at the body. How did you know? No answer. Webb keyed his radio. Ghost 13, what's your position? Static. Ghost, where the hell... Corporal Webb, her voice came back, soft but ice cold. I'm where I need to be. You're standing in the open with your rifle pointed at the ground. Fix it. Next hostile sees you like that, I might not be fast enough. Webb's head snapped around, scanning rooftops. I can't see you. Where? That's the point. Pierce took a breath. made a decision. All units, stay sharp. Ghost has overwatch. We trust the intel and keep pushing. Hayes? His radio screamed to life. Contact, 3 o'clock, multiple hostiles. The world exploded. Gunfire erupted from the right. Automatic weapons, overlapping fire, the distinct crack of AKs, and the deeper thump of something belt-fed. Rounds snapped past Pierce's head. He dove behind a concrete barrier, heard his men scattering, returning fire. Count, he shouted. 6, no, 8 tangos, someone yelled back. Second floor, east building. Suppress and another burst of fire from behind them. The platoon was bracketed. Classic L-shaped ambush. Rear contact! Webb was firing short bursts, backing toward cover. We're boxed in! Pierce's mind raced. They were pinned, exposed. The kill zone was tight, overlapping fields of fire, nowhere to... A hostile on the second floor jerked backward, didn't scream, just dropped. Then another. Then 3 more in rapid succession. Pop, 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 faster than seemed possible. The incoming fire stuttered, confusion in the enemy's rhythm. Pierce risked a look. Bodies on the second floor, bodies on the third. Silent kills, clean headshots, and he hadn't heard a single shot from Ash's position. Suppressor, Hayes breathed beside him. She's using a suppressor. 6 left, Ash's voice crackled, clinical. 2 in the rear building, 4 front. Sergeant, I need your squad to push forward in 10 seconds. I'll clear the rear. We can't push, we're... 8 seconds. Ghost, there's no way. 6 seconds. Get ready. Pierce looked at Hayes, saw his own disbelief reflected back. But that black level authorization, those clearance codes. Fix bayonets, Pierce roared. On my mark, we push that building. His men stared at him like he'd lost his mind. 4 seconds. Ready? 2 shots from behind. Not suppressed this time. Loud. Definitive. The rear fire went silent. Rear's clear. Move now. Go! 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 They moved. 32 soldiers surging forward through fire that was already dying, already confused. Pierce saw muzzle flashes wink out one by one as Ash, wherever she was, systematically dismantled the ambush. By the time they reached the building, it was over. 4 bodies on the ground floor, 3 more on the stairs. Every single one hit center mass or head. No wounded, no survivors. The platoon stood there, breathing hard, checking corners that were already clear. Hayes turned in a slow circle. Where? How? Threat neutralized, Ash said calmly. 11 KIA. No friendly casualties. Well done, Sergeant. Pierce found his voice. Ghost, where are you? Repositioning. Keep moving south. 2 more blocks, then we'll hit their outer perimeter. It gets harder from there. Harder? Webb's voice cracked. He couldn't finish. Private First Class Jackson, 20 years old, 6 months in country, was staring at his hands. They were shaking. I didn't fire a shot, he whispered. I didn't do anything. You stayed alive, Pierce said, but that's enough. But even as he said it, he knew the truth settling over his platoon like snow. They hadn't won that fight. Ash had, and none of them had seen her do it. So they moved deeper. The city changed. Less random destruction, more deliberate defense. Barricades, firing positions, streets funneled into kill zones. This wasn't abandoned territory. This was held ground, and Ash guided them through it like she had a map written in blood. Left at the intersection, stay close to the south wall. 2 sentries at 10 o'clock, but they're focused outward. You'll slip past if you're quiet. They were quiet. Building ahead has supplies. 3rd floor, west corner. Food. Medical gear. 30 seconds to grab what you need. They did. Found everything exactly where she said. Next block, you'll see tracks. Fresh. 4-man patrol passed through 6 minutes ago. They're circling back. Be ready. The patrol came. Ash dropped 3 before they could raise their weapons. The 4th ran. Didn't make it 10 meters. Each time Pierce tried to spot her. Each time he failed. She was a ghost. The call sign wasn't metaphorical. Hayes moved up beside Pierce as they paused in the shell of an old apartment building. Sarge, he said quietly, what the hell is she? She's our specialist, Pierce said, but he didn't believe it. Specialists were mechanics, communicators, engineers, whatever Ash was, it wasn't that. Webb appeared from the rear, face grim. Just checked our 6, found 3 more bodies. Throat cuts. Recent. Like, minutes ago recent. Hostiles? Yeah, but we didn't do it. And I sure as hell didn't hear anyone else back there. They looked at each other. Sergeant, Ash's voice cut in. Movement ahead. Something big. I need eyes on it before we proceed. Hold position. Copy, Pierce said. How long? 3 minutes. The platoon settled in. Weapons out, scanning sectors, professional. But Pierce could see it in their faces now. The shift. They'd gone from mocking her to something else. Not quite fear, not quite awe. Respect, maybe. The kind born from watching someone rewrite the rules of combat without breaking a sweat. Jackson approached, hesitant. Sergeant, can I ask you something? Make it quick. That specialist, Ghost, where did she come from? Like, what unit trained someone to do? He gestured vaguely at the city, the bodies, the impossible efficiency of the last hour. This? Pierce didn't have an answer, but Hayes did. He was staring at his tac pad, at something he'd pulled up. Found a reference? He said slowly. Buried. Took some digging. Project Wraith. Northern Command Black Site. Experimental sniper program started 4 years ago. Candidates recruited young, trained young, pushed. He trailed off. Pushed what? Pierce asked. Hayes looked up. His eyes were different now. Pushed until they broke, or until they became something else. Silence. Then Ash's voice. Clear. Move up. Final approach starts now. From here, it's hot. Stay tight, stay smart, and do exactly what I tell you. Understood? Understood, Pierce said. They moved. And as they pushed deeper into Black Ridge's frozen heart, as the buildings grew taller and the shadows darker, Pierce realized something that made his blood cold. Ash wasn't guiding them into the city. She was guiding them into a kill zone, and whatever waited at the center, she'd been planning to face it all along. The industrial sector rose ahead like a steel graveyard. Factories with broken smokestacks, warehouses with caved-in roofs, rail yards choked with snow and rust, and at the center, barely visible through the storm, a water treatment plant. Massive, brutalist architecture, the kind of building that could hold hundreds, or hide them. There, Ash said. Main structure, basement level. That's where they're keeping prisoners. Thermal shows 60-plus signatures, some stationary, some mobile. Guards rotating every 2 hours. 60 prisoners? Pierce felt hope flicker for the first time. You're sure? I'm sure. But Sergeant, there's a problem. Talk to me. Defenses are layered. 3 machine gun nests covering the approach. Sniper teams on the rooftops. Probably claymores on the access points. And the guards inside are on high alert. They know someone's coming. Webb keyed his radio. How would they know? We've been quiet. Because they're not stupid. 11 of their men went silent in the last hour. No check-ins, no radio traffic. They know something's hunting them. They just don't know what. Hayes, so what's the play? Silence. Longer than before. Then, I go in first, draw their attention, make them commit their assets. When they do, you push the main entrance, fast and hard. I'll thin the herd, you clean up what's left. Negative, Pierce said immediately. That's a suicide run. You'll be outnumbered 50-1. 63-1, actually, but that's why it works. They'll focus on me. Won't see you coming. Ghost, I'm not sending you alone into... Sergeant Pierce. Her voice changed. Formal. Cold. With respect, you're not sending me anywhere. I have autonomous command authority. This is my call. Bullshit! I don't care what your clearance says. I'm not... Would you rather I ask politely? The wind howled. Snow stung Pierce's face. Because I can, Ash continued, quieter now. I can wait for you to come up with a plan. We can debate tactics, argue about risk, and while we do that, those men in the basement, those 48 soldiers who came here to do their jobs and got captured instead, they'll die. Because the enemy isn't going to wait for us to feel good about our strategy. Pierce closed his eyes. Hated that she was right. I know what I am, Ash said, and for the first time he heard something in her voice. Not emotion exactly, but acknowledgement. I know what they made me, and I know why I'm here. So let me do my job, Sergeant. Let me save them. 32 men waited for his answer. Pierce opened his eyes, made the hardest call of his career. How long do you need? Give me 6 minutes. When you hear the chaos start, that's your window. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Just push. And if something goes wrong? A pause. Then so quiet he almost missed it. It won't. She clicked off. And somewhere in the storm, invisible and alone, Ash Keller began her approach. 5 minutes passed like hours. The platoon was staged behind a collapsed warehouse, weapons ready, adrenaline burning through their veins. Pierce checked his watch every 10 seconds, felt time stretch. "Sarge," Hayes whispered, "what if she—" Gunfire erupted. Not the staccato burst of a firefight, a single shot, then another, then screaming, high-pitched, panicked, cut off mid-breath. "Contact! Contact! Sniper on the East Ridge!" The voice came through on enemy frequencies. They were listening to the enemy panic. "Where is she?" "I can't see." Another shot. Silence. "Second floor! She's on the— No! Third floor! Suppressing fire!" Machine guns opened up. Hundreds of rounds pouring into buildings, into shadows, into nothing. And through it all, Ash's voice on their private channel, calm as death. "Machine gun Nest 1 is down. Repositioning." The enemy radio. "We need backup. Repeat. We need—" Crack. Static. "Nest 2 down. Sergeant, you're clear to move." "Go!" "Move!" Pierce roared. They ran. 32 soldiers sprinting across open ground while above them, unseen, a 19-year-old girl orchestrated chaos, drawing fire, killing with surgical precision, turning an entire defensive network inside out. They hit the main entrance. Webb kicked the door. They poured in. Clear the corners. Watch the fatal funnel. Move fast. Shoot faster. Bodies in the hallway. Recent kills. Ash had been here first. "Basement!" Pierce shouted. "Go, go, go!" Stairs descent into darkness, lights flickering, and then voices. "Hear that? Someone's coming. Hold your positions. Don't let them—" Pierce's squad burst through the door. 3 hostiles turned, weapons rising. Hayes dropped 2. Webb got the 3rd. And beyond them, chained to pipes and walls and anything sturdy enough to hold a man. Survivors. 48 soldiers in varying states of injury, thin, beaten, but alive. "Friendly!" Pierce shouted. "U.S. Army! We're here to get you out!" Chaos. Beautiful chaos. His men cutting chains, distributing weapons, getting wounded to their feet. Above them, the gunfire continued. But it was different now, scattered, confused. The enemy was broken. Pierce's radio crackled. "Sergeant, basement secure?" "Affirmative. We've got all 48. Casualties are—" "Good. Get them out. I'll hold the exit." "Ghost, what's your status?" "Shoulder hit, not serious. Keep moving." "You're hit?" "I said not serious. Focus on the exfil, Sergeant. That's your job. This—" A pause. In the background, Pierce heard a single shot. Then another. "This is mine." The line went quiet. And for the next 10 minutes, while they loaded survivors and prepared to move, they heard it. A one-sided battle in the floors above. Ash Keller versus an enemy that had already lost but didn't know it yet. By the time they reached the surface, the shooting had stopped. The courtyard was silent. Snow falling. Bodies everywhere. Guards, snipers, anyone who'd stood between her and victory. And there, sitting on the steps of the water treatment plant, rifle across her lap, was Ash. Blood stained her left shoulder. Her face was pale. But her eyes were as calm as when she'd stepped off that transport. Pierce approached slowly. "Ghost?" She looked up. "Sergeant, you're bleeding." "Yeah, that's more than a scratch." She glanced at her shoulder like she'd forgotten it was there. "Bullet went through. Clean exit. I'll be fine." "You should have called for support." "You had your job. I had mine." She stood, wincing slightly. "Mission complete?" Pierce wanted to yell at her, wanted to dress her down for taking insane risks, for operating alone, for nearly getting killed. But then he looked at the survivors. 48 men who'd been hours from execution. 48 lives saved because a 19-year-old girl had walked into hell without blinking. Yeah, he said quietly. Mission complete. Behind them, Webb approached, stopped a few feet away, stared at Ash for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. Just that. A nod. And Ash nodded back. They made it back to the rally point as night fell. Medics swarmed the survivors. Brass showed up, asking questions, taking statements. The platoon gave their reports with the shell-shocked precision of men still processing what they'd witnessed. Pierce found Ash sitting alone by a supply truck, her shoulder bandaged, rifle case at her feet. She was staring at nothing, face blank. He sat down beside her, didn't speak for a while. Finally, "How long have you been doing this?" 4 years. Since you were 15, 14 actually. They recruited me younger. She said it matter-of-factly. No self-pity, no pride. Just statement of fact. Jesus. Pierce rubbed his face. What did they do to you? They made me useful. She looked at him. You saw what I can do, Sergeant. You saw how many lives it saves. That's the point. That's always been the point. At what cost? Ash smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. You don't want that answer. They sat in silence. Around them, the sounds of evacuation. Engines, radio chatter, men going home. Your squad doesn't trust me, Ash said suddenly. Can you blame them? No. She stood, picked up her rifle case. But they should know something. What? I heard what Webb said, about me, about sending a kid. She paused. He was right to be angry. This shouldn't be my life, but it is, and I'm good at it, better than anyone has a right to be. She looked at the city, still smoldering in the distance. So you tell your men, the girl they laughed at? She's the reason they're alive. And next time they see someone small or young or quiet, maybe they'll remember that. She walked away. Pierce watched her go, wanted to call her back, wanted to say something that would make a difference. But what could you say to someone who'd been turned into a weapon before they'd had a chance to be a person? Hayes appeared beside him. She okay? I don't think she knows what okay means anymore. They stood there watching as Ash climbed into a transport, alone. No unit to return to. No squad to celebrate with, just a call sign and a mission and the long, cold silence of being the best at something nobody should have to do. The transport pulled away, and as it disappeared into the storm, Sergeant Nolan Pierce made himself a promise. If they ever worked together again, he'd do it differently. He'd see her, not as a weapon, not as a tool, as what she should have been from the start. A soldier who deserved better. The snow kept falling, and somewhere in the darkness, Ghost 13 was already gone. The debriefing room smelled like burnt coffee and old sweat. Northern Command had flown in a full bird colonel. Hendricks, silver hair, 3 rows of ribbons, and eyes that had seen too many after-action reports go sideways. He sat across from Pierce with a tablet and an expression that lived somewhere between impressed and deeply concerned. So let me get this straight, Hendricks said, scrolling through something. You deviated from your assigned route, engaged numerically superior forces in contested territory, and extracted 48 POWs, all based on intelligence from a single specialist you'd met 30 minutes prior. Pierce kept his face neutral. That's correct, sir. And this specialist, Ghost 13, she provided overwatch from an unknown position, eliminated approximately 63 enemy combatants, and did so with minimal friendly support. Yes, sir. Hendricks set down the tablet. Sergeant, do you have any idea how many regulations you violated? Several, sir. Try 17 separate protocols, any one of which could end your career. The colonel leaned back. Except you also just pulled off the most successful rescue operation in this theater in 2 years. So here's my problem. I don't know whether to court-martial you or pin a medal on your chest. With respect, sir, the person who deserves the medal isn't in this room. Ghost 13. Hendricks said the call sign like it tasted strange. You know what bothers me most about her file? The parts that are missing. Entire sections redacted. Training history, recruitment details, psychological evaluations. All black. Just her operational record. And that record, he paused. 96 confirmed kills in 16 months. 0 friendly casualties. 0 mission failures. She's 19 years old, Pierce. 19. I'm aware, sir. Are you? Because I've been doing this for 23 years and I've never seen numbers like that. Not from SEALs, not from Delta, not from anyone. Hendricks stood, walked to the window. Outside, snow was falling again. I made some calls, pulled strings I probably shouldn't have. Found a reference to Project Wraith. You heard of it? Only rumors, sir. Yeah, well, the rumors don't do it justice. The colonel turned back. They started it 4 years ago. Experimental program. The idea was to train snipers young, before bad habits formed, before fear became instinct. They recruited kids, smart kids, quiet kids, the kind nobody noticed, and they pushed them until something broke or something clicked. Pierce felt his stomach turn. How young? Youngest recruit was 12, oldest was 15. Hendricks said it flat. No emotion, just facts. Out of 47 candidates, 33 washed out in the first year. 8 more failed psychological screening. 3 had breakdowns, 2 are still institutionalized. That left 1. Ash. Ghost 13, Hendricks corrected. They don't use real names in the program, just call signs. Easier to forget they're human that way. He sat back down. She didn't just survive the training, Pierce. She excelled, set records, became exactly what they wanted, a perfect weapon with perfect discipline. And then they deployed her, alone, always alone, because that's how she works best. The room felt smaller suddenly. Sir, Pierce said carefully. With respect, what the hell are we doing to these kids? We're winning wars, Sergeant, or trying to. Hendricks rubbed his face, looked older. But yeah, I ask myself the same question, usually around 3 in the morning when I can't sleep. Silence settled. Outside, engines roared, another transport leaving. She saved 48 lives yesterday, Pierce said. Whatever they did to her, whatever she's become, she used it for something good. This time, Hendricks said quietly. But what happens when the war ends? What happens when we don't need Ghost 13 anymore? He stood again. People like her don't retire, Sergeant. They don't go home and get normal jobs. They're trained for one thing, built for one thing, and when that thing goes away, he trailed off. Pierce didn't need him to finish. Anyway, Hendricks picked up his tablet. You're clear, no court-martial, and your platoon's getting commendations. As for Ghost 13, she's already gone. New assignment, classified. Probably won't see her again. Something about that sat wrong in Pierce's chest. Sir, is there any way to... No. Hendricks cut him off. And trust me, you don't want to go looking. The people who run Project Wraith don't like questions. They don't like attention. You poke that hornet's nest, it'll sting. Understand? Yes, sir. Good. The colonel headed for the door, paused. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Trusting her, following your gut. That took balls. But Pierce, if you ever cross paths with her again, remember what she is, not who, what, because the difference might save your life. He left. Pierce sat alone in the debriefing room, staring at his hands. They weren't shaking, not anymore, but he could still feel it, that moment when Ash had walked into the ruins alone. That certainty in her voice. I know what I am. Yeah, he thought, but do you know what you could have been? The door opened again. Hayes stuck his head in. Sarge, we're wheels up in 20. You good? Yeah. Pierce stood. I'm good. But he wasn't. And as he followed Hayes out into the snow, he couldn't shake the image. A 19-year-old girl climbing into a transport alone, heading to another mission, another city, another batch of men who'd underestimate her. Until she saved them. Or until she didn't. 3 months later, Firebase Sentinel sat on a ridge overlooking the Kharkov Valley like a scab that wouldn't heal. Pierce had been reassigned. New platoon, new sector, same war grinding on. The Firebase was a collection of prefab structures, sandbag walls, and paranoia. They'd lost 2 patrols in as many weeks, ambushed, wiped out, bodies left as messages. The enemy here was different, organized, professional. They hit fast, vanished faster, and knew the terrain better than the maps. Pierce stood in the command bunker listening to Captain Vickers, 40 years old, infantry lifer, voice like gravel, lay out the situation. Patterns clear, Vickers said, pointing at a tactical map. They're testing our perimeter, probing for weak spots. 3 days ago, they hit our water convoy. Yesterday, mortar fire on the east wall. They're building to something big. Invasion, someone asked. Maybe, or they're trying to draw us out. Vickers circled an area on the map. Intel suggests they've got a command post here. Valley floor, abandoned factory complex. If we could take it out, cut the head off the snake. That's a kill box, Hayes said. He'd transferred with Pierce along with Webb and a handful of others. Open ground, elevated positions on 3 sides. We go down there, we're target practice. That's why we're not going. Vickers tapped the map. Not yet. Northern Command is sending support. Specialist. Should be here within the hour. Pierce's gut tightened. What kind of specialist? The kind with black-level clearance and a reputation. Vickers looked at him. You ever work with a ghost operative before, Sergeant? The room went quiet. Once, Pierce said. Black Ridge City. Then you know what to expect? Vickers didn't sound happy about it. Orders say full cooperation. She runs tactical. We provide support. Mission objective. Eliminate enemy command structure, disrupt operations, and make it hurt. Webb leaned over to Pierce, whispered, You think it's her? No way, Pierce said, but his pulse kicked up. There's probably dozens of ghost operatives. Could be anyone. Right, anyone. The briefing ended. They had 45 minutes to prep gear and wait. Pierce spent it checking his rifle for the 3rd time, trying to ignore the knot in his stomach. It wouldn't be her. Couldn't be. The brass wouldn't send the same specialist twice. That wasn't how these things worked. But his gut, the same gut that had kept him alive through 4 deployments, wouldn't shut up. 30 minutes later, the radio crackled. Inbound transport, 2 mics out. The platoon gathered near the landing pad. 15 men this time. Smaller unit, tighter group. They'd been through the grinder together, trusted each other. The transport touched down. Ramp dropped. And she stepped out. Smaller than Pierce remembered. Or maybe he'd just convinced himself she was bigger. Same dark hair, same watch cap, same rifle case. She moved through the rotor wash like it wasn't there, face unreadable. When she looked up and saw Pierce, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition. Maybe relief. Hard to tell. She walked over, stopped 3 feet away. Sergeant Pierce. Ghost 13. Ash, she corrected quietly. You can use my name. Behind them, Webb muttered, Holy shit, it really is her. Ash glanced past Pierce, took in the platoon. Her expression didn't change, but he saw her shoulders tighten slightly. She recognized them too. The men from Black Ridge, the men who'd laughed at her. Captain Vickers briefed you? She asked Pierce. Yeah, factory complex, command post. We're support. Right. She shifted the rifle case. We should talk strategy. Terrain here is different from Black Ridge. More open, harder to control. Harder for you, you mean? Harder for everyone. She started walking toward the command bunker. Come on, we've got work to do. The planning session lasted 2 hours. Ash spread out satellite photos, thermal scans, and hand-drawn maps that were somehow more detailed than anything Intel had provided. She'd been watching the valley for 3 days from positions nobody knew existed. Command post is here, she said, tapping a building. 3-story factory, reinforced. Approximately 40 combatants inside, plus support staff. Commander's name is Volkov, former Spetsnaz. Smart, disciplined. He's not making mistakes. Vickers leaned forward. How do you know his name? I listened to their radio traffic, learned their procedures. Volkov runs a tight ship. Morning briefings at 0600. Patrol rotations every 4 hours. He's got sentries on the roof, machine gun nests covering approaches, and claymores on every entrance I can see. Can see? Hayes asked. Meaning there might be more. Almost certainly. Ash pulled out another photo. But here's his weakness. Overconfidence. He thinks this position is untouchable. Natural defenses, superior firepower, home terrain advantage, so he's not expecting anyone stupid enough to attack. We'd need an army, Vickers said. Air support, artillery. This isn't a scalpel job, it's a hammer. Unless you use the right scalpel, Ash looked at Pierce. How many shooters can you give me? For what? Close-in work after I make the opening. Webb laughed. It came out harsh. You're kidding. You're gonna, what, walk up and knock? Lady, there's 40 guys in there with automatic weapons. 63, Ash said calmly, in Black Ridge. 40 is actually an improvement. That was different. I had luck and surprise. She met Webb's eyes. This time I have experience, and I have you. The room shifted. Men who'd fought beside her once, who'd seen what she could do, started paying closer attention. Walk me through it, Pierce said. Ash turned back to the map. I go in first, solo. Take out sentries, disable external defenses, create chaos. Volkov's men will react. They're trained. They'll rally, consolidate inside. That's when you hit the main entrance, fast, hard, while they're distracted trying to find me. You'll be inside, Vickers said. Alone, against 40. 35 by the time you arrive. If I'm fast. She said it like she was estimating groceries. I'll mark targets, clear rooms, funnel them toward you. You sweep and secure. And if they pin you down? They won't. But if they do, Captain. Ash's voice didn't rise, didn't harden, but something in it made Vickers stop. I've run 63 operations, 15 solo infiltrations, 0 failures. I know what I'm doing. You're 19 years old. Yes, sir. I'm also the best chance you have at taking that factory without losing half your platoon. She looked around the room. I'm not asking you to like this plan. I'm asking you to trust it. Trust me. Just like Sergeant Pierce did in Black Ridge. All eyes turned to Pierce. He studied the map, the factory, the kill zones, the impossible odds. Then he looked at Ash. Really looked. Past the age, past the size, past the wrongness of a teenager standing here drawing up battle plans. He saw someone who'd saved 48 lives while bleeding from a bullet wound. Someone who'd walked into hell without hesitation because it was her job. When do we start? Pierce asked. Vickers exhaled hard. You're serious. She's right, sir. She's our best shot. This is insane. Yeah. Pierce kept his eyes on Ash. But it'll work. The captain stared at them both. Then slowly, he nodded. Fine. But you're all insane. He pointed at Ash. You get into trouble, you call for support. No heroics. Understand? Yes, sir. And Pierce, you keep your men ready. First sign of things going sideways, you pull back. I'm not explaining to command why I let a teenager get killed on a suicide mission. Understood. Vickers left, muttering about early retirement. The platoon stayed. 15 men looking at Ash like she was a puzzle they couldn't solve. Finally, Private Jackson, the same kid who'd asked about her in Black Ridge, spoke up. Ghost? Can I ask you something? Ash, she corrected. And yeah. Why do you do this? Why do you keep taking these missions? Going in alone? She was quiet for a long moment. When she answered, her voice was softer. Because I'm good at it. Because people live when I do. And because... She trailed off, started again. Because someone has to. But it doesn't have to be you. Yeah, Ash said. It does. She turned and left before anyone could respond. Webb watched her go. She's going to get herself killed one of these days. Maybe, Pierce said, but not today. They moved out at 0300 under cover of darkness and fresh snow. Ash went first, always first. She disappeared into the valley like smoke, no sound, no trace. 1 second she was there, the next, gone. Pierce positioned his squad 200 meters from the factory, hidden in the ruins of an old grain silo. From here, they had a clear view of the target. Thermal scopes picked up heat signatures inside. Movement, life. And somewhere out there, invisible, Ash was beginning her approach. 20 minutes of silence. Then the radio whispered, Ghost 13 to Sentinel Actual, I'm in position, beginning Phase 1. Copy, Vickers replied from the firebase. You are weapons free. Good hunting. Acknowledged, starting now. The line went quiet. Pierce scanned the factory through his scope. Saw nothing. No movement. No. A sentry on the roof jerked, slumped, fell behind the parapet. Contact, Hayes breathed beside him. Another sentry. Same thing. Clean, silent, professional. 2 down in 10 seconds, but the third saw something. Movement, shadow, who knows? He turned, brought his radio up. Ash's shot took him in the throat before he could speak. The body dropped. 3 sentries gone. Roof clear. Phase 1 complete, Ash's voice crackled. Moving to Phase 2. Stand by. Pierce's heart hammered. How the hell is she doing this? Same way she always does, Webb said. Like it's easy. They watched, waited. Minutes crawled by. Then, shouting inside the factory, lights flaring, panic. Contact inside, someone's... Gunfire erupted. Not outside, inside. Muzzle flashes visible through windows, yelling, chaos. She's in the building, Hayes said. She's actually inside. More gunfire. A window shattered. Body fell through it, hit the ground 3 stories down. The radio crackled with enemy traffic. Panicked Russian. Intruder. 2nd floor. No. 3rd floor. Where is she? All units, converge on... The transmission cut off. Pierce knew that silence. He'd heard it before. Ash had just killed whoever was giving orders. Sentinel Actual, Tifpit. Her voice came through, steady despite the gunfire in the background. I'm compromised. They know I'm here? Recommend you move up your timeline. How many left? Vickers asked. 22, maybe 20. They're consolidating on the 1st floor. I'm pinned on the 3rd. Can't break through without... A burst of automatic fire drowned her out. When she came back, her breathing was faster. Without taking casualties. Ghost, fall back. Will artillery the building? Negative. There are files here. Intelligence, troop movements, supply routes. If you level this place, you lose it all. Pause. More gunfire. I can hold them. But I need that support. Now. Vickers. Pierce, you're cleared hot. Move in! Move! Pierce roared. They ran. 15 men sprinting across open ground. No cover. Completely exposed. Every instinct screaming, this is wrong, this is suicide. But they ran anyway. Because somewhere in that factory, a 19-year-old girl was holding back an army. They hit the entrance, breached the door, poured inside. The ground floor was a slaughterhouse. Bodies everywhere, defensive positions shattered, blood on the walls. And above them, from the upper floors, constant gunfire. 2 distinct sounds. 1. Multiple AKs, overlapping, sustained. 2. Single, precise shots. Controlled. Deliberate. Ash was still fighting. Clear the rooms, Pierce ordered. Move fast. They swept, room by room, found enemy combatants already dead, already handled. Ash had been thorough. But as they pushed toward the stairs, they heard it. A change in the gunfire above. More concentrated, focused. They were pushing her back. Double time! Pierce hit the stairs running. 2nd floor. More bodies. More evidence of Ash's brutal efficiency. But also, blood. Fresh. Leading up to the 3rd floor. Her blood. She's hit, Hayes said. They climbed. The 3rd floor was chaos. Smoke. Shouting. A dozen enemy combatants behind barricades pouring fire into a single doorway at the far end of the hall. Ash was in there, trapped. Suppressing fire. Webb didn't wait for orders. He opened up, full auto, shredding the barricades. The enemy turned, saw the new threat, tried to adjust. Too late. Pierce's squad tore through them. 15 against 12, close quarters, no mercy. It lasted 30 seconds. When the smoke cleared, the hallway was silent. Pierce ran to the doorway Ash had been defending. Ghost! Ash! Here! She was sitting against the wall, rifle across her lap, right hand pressed against her side. Blood between her fingers. Not a lot, but enough. Her face was pale, sweat on her forehead, but her eyes were clear. You're late, she said. You're bleeding. Yeah, noticed that. She tried to stand, winced. Caught one in the ribs, through and through, I think. Hurts like hell, but I can move. Hayes knelt beside her, pulled a med kit. Let me see. She moved her hand. The wound was ugly. Bullet entry just below her rib cage, exit wound in her back. Bleeding steady but not arterial. You kept fighting with this? Hayes asked. Didn't have much choice. She looked at Pierce. Did you get them all? Ground floor and 2nd floor clear, 3rd floor clear. You got Volkov? Yeah, office down the hall, along with his 2nd and 3rd in command. She pointed. Files are in there too. Everything you need. Pierce keyed his radio. Sentinel, actual, building secure, target eliminated. We've got wounded. Vickers. Copy. Medevac inbound, ETA 10 minutes. Get her stable. Hayes was already working. Bandages, pressure. Field medicine that wouldn't win awards but would keep her alive until the medics arrived. Ash watched him work with detached interest, like it was happening to someone else. You did good, Pierce said quietly. Lost 3, she replied. 3 sentries I didn't account for. They radioed inside before I could stop them. That's why it went sideways. You took out 37 enemy combatants, secured critical intelligence, and survived. That's not losing. That's winning ugly. Winning ugly still means I made mistakes. Ash, Pierce crouched beside her. You're human. Humans make mistakes. The fact that you're still breathing means you corrected them fast enough. She looked at him, really looked. And for just a second, he saw past the weapon, past the call sign, past the training. He saw a kid who'd never learned how to forgive herself. Come on, Hayes said, finishing the bandage. Let's get you downstairs. Medevac will be here soon. They helped her up. She leaned on Hayes, limping but mobile. As they moved through the factory, past the bodies, past the evidence of violence, Webb fell in beside Pierce. She's going to keep doing this, Webb said quietly, taking these missions, going in alone, until one day she doesn't come back. I know, and we can't stop her. No, Pierce said. We can't. They reached the ground floor as the medevac helo landed outside. Medics rushed in, took Ash from Hayes, started asking questions she answered with clinical precision. Pierce watched them load her onto a stretcher, watched her stare at the ceiling, face blank again, emotions packed away. Before they carried her out, she turned her head, met his eyes. Thank you, she said, barely audible over the rotor noise. For what? For trusting me. Again. Then they took her, out into the snow, into the helo, gone. The platoon stood there, watching the medevac lift off. 15 men who'd just witnessed something they still couldn't fully process. Sarge, Jackson said, is she gonna be okay? Pierce thought about the wound in her side, the blood, the way she'd kept fighting anyway. Then he thought about the other wounds, the ones nobody could see. Physically? He said. Yeah, she'll heal. And the rest? Pierce didn't answer, because he didn't have one. The helo disappeared into the storm, and Firebase Sentinel settled back into its routine. Guard duty, patrols, the slow grind of war. But something had changed. The men who'd worked with Ghost 13 twice now walked different, talked different. They'd seen what one person could do when they were willing to sacrifice everything. And it scared them. Because deep down, they knew the truth. Ash Keller wasn't fighting for glory or medals or even survival. She was fighting because it was all she knew, all she'd ever been allowed to know. And somewhere in the chain of command, in bunkers and offices far from the front lines, people in suits were already planning her next mission, the next impossible task, the next time she'd walk into hell alone. Because that's what weapons did. They got used until they broke. 6 weeks later, Pierce got the call he'd been dreading. It came through at 0200. Encrypted channel, priority alpha. The voice on the other end belonged to someone he'd never met. Clipped, professional, the kind of tone that came from people who gave orders they never had to follow. Sergeant Pierce, you're being reassigned, effective immediately. He sat up in his bunk, still half asleep. Reassigned where? Classified. You'll be briefed en route. Transport leaves in 90 minutes. Bring your combat load and nothing else. What's the mission? Extraction. High-value target. Northern Command wants personnel with prior Ghost 13 experience. Pierce's blood went cold. Is she in trouble? A pause. That's complicated. Briefing in 90 minutes, Sergeant. The line went dead. He dressed in the dark, hands moving on autopilot. 90 minutes later, he was on a Black Hawk heading north, deeper into contested territory than he'd ever been. Hayes and Webb sat across from him. They'd gotten the same call. Same lack of information, same tight feeling in their guts. The briefing officer was a major named Cross, thin, wiry, eyes that didn't blink enough. He spread photos across the tactical table as the helo cut through pre-dawn darkness. 48 hours ago, Cross said, Ghost 13 was tasked with eliminating a high-value target. Commander Alexei Revin, former Russian intelligence, current operational leader for the Kharkov insurgency. Brilliant tactician, responsible for at least 200 coalition deaths. He tapped a photo. Middle-aged man, hard eyes, military bearing. Ghost 13 tracked him to a compound here. Another photo. Walled structure, guard towers, remote location. She went in solo, standard protocol. Mission was simple. One shot, exfil clean. Was, Pierce asked. Cross's jaw tightened. 17 hours ago, we lost contact. Her last transmission was irregular. She reported the target eliminated but didn't extract, stayed on site. When command ordered her to pull out, she refused. Refused? Webb leaned forward. Ghost doesn't refuse orders. She did this time. Cross pulled up another image. Thermal satellite shows her still in the compound, not moving, not responding to comms. Just there. Hayes. Could she be compromised, captured? No, we'd have heard demands by now, and the thermal shows her heat signature alone, mobile but stationary, like she's... Cross hesitated. Like she's guarding something. Pierce studied the photos. Something felt wrong. What aren't you telling us? Cross met his eyes. When Ghost 13 engaged the target, she discovered something. Prisoners. 39 of them. Children. The helo went quiet except for the rotors. Children, Pierce repeated. Civilians from local villages. Taken over the past 6 months. Revin was using them as leverage. Insurance. Human shields. Cross's voice stayed flat, but something moved behind his eyes. Ghost 13 eliminated Revin and his command staff. But she won't leave. Not without the kids. And command can't authorize a full extraction team. It would take resources we don't have, time we can't spare. The strategic value doesn't justify strategic value. Pierce's voice came out hard. You're talking about children. I'm talking about reality, Sergeant. We're fighting a war with limited assets. 39 civilians versus operational security, resource allocation, risk assessment. The math doesn't work. So command ordered her to leave them. Yes. And she said no. In more colorful language, but yes. Cross pulled up a transcript. Her exact words were, I'm not leaving until these kids are safe. Send extraction or don't. I'm not moving. Webb whistled low. She just told command to go to hell. Essentially. Cross looked at Pierce. That's where you come in. You've worked with her. She trusts you. We need you to talk her down. Get her to leave before this turns into an international incident. And the kids? Will be handled through proper diplomatic channels. Eventually. Eventually, Hayes said. Meaning never. Cross didn't disagree. Just stared. Pierce felt something shift in his chest. A decision forming before he'd fully thought it through. What's our actual tasking? Convince Ghost 13 to abort the mission and extract. If she won't listen, you're authorized to use physical restraint and remove her by force. You want us to drag her out. If necessary, she's a valuable asset. Can't have her dying over 39 civilians who aren't our responsibility. The helo banked. Through the window, darkness giving way to gray dawn. Pierce looked at Hayes. At Webb. Saw the same thing in their faces he felt in his gut. Major, Pierce said carefully, what happens if we refuse? Cross's expression went flat. Then you'll be court-martialed for insubordination, and we'll send a team that won't hesitate. He leaned forward. Let me be clear, Sergeant. One way or another, Ghost 13 is coming back. The only question is whether she does it voluntarily or in restraints. I'm giving you the chance to make it easy, for her sake. Silence. Then Webb. That's not much of a choice. No, Cross agreed. It's not. But it's the only one you've got. They landed 2 clicks from the compound as the sun broke the horizon. The approach was careful, tactical, the kind of movement that kept you alive in enemy territory. But as they got closer, Pierce started noticing things that made his skin crawl. Bodies. Not old. Fresh. Maybe 12 hours. Enemy combatants in defensive positions, all dead. Headshots, throat cuts, precision kills. She's been busy, Hayes muttered. They found more as they closed in. Sentries, patrols. An entire quick reaction force that had been staged half a click out. 8 men, all dead, arranged like they'd been hit mid-stride. Ash had been holding this position alone for 17 hours, against what looked like at least 40 reinforcements, and she was still holding it. The compound walls came into view, concrete, 3 meters high. Guard towers empty now, bodies slumped in them. The main gate hung open, Pierce's radio crackled. Not command frequency, something else. A familiar voice, quiet and tired. "Sergeant Pierce, I know you're out there. Come in slow. I've got the perimeter rigged." He keyed his mic. "Ash, we need to talk." "Yeah, I figured they'd send you." A pause. "I'm in the main building, 2nd floor. Come alone. Your men stay outside." "Not happening. We stay together." "Pierce." Her voice changed, harder. "I've got 39 terrified kids in here. Last thing they need is armed soldiers rushing in. You come alone, or you don't come at all." Hayes looked at him. "It's a trap." "No," Pierce said. "It's not." He started forward. "Sarge, stay here. Cover the exits. If this goes sideways..." He didn't finish, didn't need to. He walked through the gate. The compound courtyard was a killing ground. More bodies, more evidence of Ash's handiwork, but also hastily dug graves, fresh dirt. Someone had buried the children who didn't make it. She'd buried them, alone, while holding off an army. Pierce felt something crack in his chest. He entered the main building, climbed stairs, found her on the 2nd floor, sitting against a wall in a makeshift classroom. Kids scattered around, sleeping, crying quietly, watching him with hollow eyes, ages ranging from maybe 6 to 15. And in the center of it all, Ash. She looked like hell. Blood on her fatigues, not all hers, dark circles under her eyes, rifle across her lap, finger off the trigger but ready. She'd been awake for at least 48 hours straight. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey yourself." Pierce sat down across from her, kept his rifle slung, non-threatening. "You look like shit. Feel worse." She glanced at the kids. They've been through it. Malnutrition, dehydration. Some have been here for months. The little ones don't even remember home anymore. "Ash, I know why you're here." She cut him off. "Command wants me gone. Strategic liability. Bad optics. I get it." "Then why won't you leave?" She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. "When I was 14, they took me. Project Wraith. They said it was voluntary, said I'd be serving my country, making a difference." She touched her rifle. "They didn't say what it would cost, what I'd lose, what I'd become." Pierce waited. "These kids, they didn't volunteer for anything. They were just living their lives, going to school, playing, being children. Then soldiers came and took that away, turned them into bargaining chips, tools." She looked up, met his eyes. "I know what that feels like. Having someone decide your life doesn't matter, that you're just resources to be used and discarded." "Ash, I'm not leaving them." Her voice went hard, final. "Command can send whoever they want. Court-martial me, dishonorably discharge me. I don't care. I'm not walking away." "They'll send a team," Pierce said. "They'll drag you out. And these kids will still be here." "Then I'll fight the team." "You'll lose." "Maybe." She chambered around. "But I'll make it expensive." Pierce felt the weight of it. The impossible choice. Orders versus conscience. Duty versus humanity. He thought about Cross's briefing. The threat of court-martial. The promise that someone else would come if he failed. Then he thought about Blackridge. About 48 men saved because one person refused to follow the easy orders. He made his decision. "All right," Pierce said. "Then we extract them." Ash's head snapped up. "What?" 39 kids. We get them out. You, me, Hayes, Webb. We load them up and we run." "Pierce, you can't. They'll court-martial you. End your career." "Probably." He stood, keyed his radio. "Hayes, Webb, get in here. Bring all the water and rations you're carrying." Static. Then, "Sarge, you sure about this?" "Negative. But we're doing it anyway. Move." He looked back at Ash. She was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you risk everything for—" "Because you're right." Pierce crouched beside her. These kids didn't ask for this. Neither did you. And I'm tired of watching good people get used up by a machine that doesn't give a damn about anything except winning. He put a hand on her shoulder. We're getting them out. All of them. Together. For the first time since he'd met her, Ash Keller's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back, swallowed hard. You're going to regret this. Yeah, Pierce said. But I'll regret the alternative more. Hayes and Webb arrived, took one look at the kids, at Ash, at Pierce's face, understood immediately what was happening. We're doing this? Webb asked. We're doing this. Command's gonna lose their minds. Let them. Pierce turned to the room. All right, here's the play. We've got 2 clicks to the extraction point. No vehicles, no air support. Just us and 39 kids who can barely walk. Hayes, you're on point. Webb, rear guard. Ash, overwatch, she said. Already standing, already moving. I'll clear the route. Keep them safe. You're wounded. You've been up for 2 days. Yeah, so let's not waste time arguing. She checked her rifle, hands steady despite the exhaustion. I've got enough in the tank for 2 more clicks. After that, she shrugged. After that, we carry you, Hayes said. She smiled, thin, tired. Deal.
Bien.
They moved out at 0800. 39 children, 4 soldiers, 2 clicks of hostile territory. It should have been impossible. Ash disappeared ahead, scouting. Her voice guided them through her radio. Left at the intersection. Stay low. Enemy patrol passed through 5 minutes ago, circling back in 10. They followed, kids holding hands, staying quiet despite their fear. Pierce brought up the middle, counting heads, watching for stragglers. A little girl, maybe 7, stumbled. He caught her, lifted her onto his back. She weighed nothing, all bones and hunger. You're okay, he murmured. We've got you. She buried her face against his shoulder and didn't make a sound. 15 minutes in, Ash's voice crackled. Contact, 3 tangos, 100 meters north. They haven't seen you yet. Engaging. 3 shots. Suppressed, distant. Clear. Keep moving. They kept moving. 30 minutes. 45. The kids were slowing. Some couldn't walk anymore. Pierce, Hayes, and Webb took turns carrying them, 2 at a time. 3. However many they could manage. And ahead, invisible, Ash kept clearing the path. Checkpoint coming up. 2 guards. Can't get both without alerting the second. Need a distraction. What kind? Pierce asked. Loud. Obvious. Pull their attention south while I flank north. Webb grinned. Pulled a flashbang. I got loud. 30 seconds. On my mark. They waited. Kids huddled behind cover. Pierce's pulse hammering. Mark! Webb threw the flashbang. It detonated. Brilliant light, ear-shattering bang. The guards turned. Raised weapons. 2 shots from the north. Both guards dropped. Clear. Checkpoint's yours. They pushed through. 1 click left. Then Ash's voice changed. Problem. Big one. Talk to me. Quick reaction force. 20 men. Trucks. Heavy weapons. They're mobilizing. Someone called in our position. ETA? 5 minutes. Maybe less. A pause. Pierce, they're between you and extraction. I can slow them down, but I can't stop them. Not all of them. Hayes, we make a stand. Here. Now. Negative, Pierce said. We've got kids. Can't risk them in a firefight. Then what? Ash. Pierce kept his voice level. How many can you take before they reach us? Not enough. Guess anyway. Silence. He could hear her breathing, calculating. 8, maybe 10. If I'm perfect, the rest will break through. Then we hold them at the extraction point, long enough for evac. There is no evac, Pierce. Command didn't authorize. Then we call someone who will. He switched frequencies, keyed the emergency channel. Any Allied forces, this is Sergeant Nolan Pierce, Firebase Sentinel. I've got 39 civilian children. Hot LZ, request immediate extraction. How copy? Static. More static. Then, Pierce, this is Vanguard 6. We copy your traffic. What's your position? He rattled off coordinates. That's contested airspace. We'd need clearance from... There's no time for clearance, Pierce shouted. I've got kids here, babies. If you don't pull us out, they die. All of them. So either you come get us or you live with that. Your call, Vanguard. Silence stretched. Then, E.T., a 12 minutes. Mark your LZ with smoke. And Pierce? This better not be bullshit. It's not. Vanguard 6, you're saving lives today. Pierce out. He looked at his squad, at the kids, at the impossible odds. 12 minutes, he said. We hold for 12 minutes. Hayes, get these kids to the extraction point. Webb, you're with me. We buy time. Against 20? Webb checked his ammo. This is gonna hurt. Yeah. Ash's voice. I'm coming to you. Negative. Stay on overwatch. Pick them off as they approach. Pierce, that's an order, Ghost. You don't give me orders. Today I do. You've been running on empty for 2 days. You miss one shot, you're dead. So stay hidden. Do what you do best and trust us to do our job. Silence. Then quietly. Copy. The QRF came fast. Trucks, mounted weapons, soldiers who knew their business. They'd expected resistance, but not here. Not at this choke point where the terrain funneled them into a natural kill zone. Pierce and Webb opened fire from cover. Short bursts, controlled, making every round count. The enemy scattered, took positions, returned fire with overwhelming volume. Then they started dropping. 1, 2, 5. Ash working from somewhere they couldn't see, picking off officers, machine gunners, anyone trying to coordinate. But there were too many. For every one that fell, 2 more pushed forward. Reloading! Webb ducked behind the wall as rounds chewed concrete above his head. Pierce laid down covering fire. Saw movement. 3 hostiles flanking left. He shifted, dropped 2. The third made it to cover. Then that hostile's head snapped back. Ash. East flank clear. But they're pushing hard on your right. I can't get an angle. Copy. Pierce's words cut off as an RPG streaked past. Too close. Detonated behind them. Shrapnel screamed. He checked himself. No holes. Webb was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but still firing. How long? Webb yelled. Pierce checked his watch. 8 minutes. We're not going to last 8 minutes. Then we last 9. Pierce threw his last grenade. It popped smoke, covered their position. Fall back, they moved. 20 meters. New position. The smoke bought them seconds. The enemy advanced through it, and Ash went to work. She dropped 6 in 10 seconds. Surgical, brutal. Each shot a statement, you will not pass. But they kept coming. 7 minutes. Pierce's rifle clicked empty. He drew his sidearm, kept firing. Beside him, Webb took a round to the shoulder. Spun. Fell. Man down! Hayes appeared from nowhere, grabbed Webb, dragged him back while Pierce provided cover. Pierce! Ash's voice strained. I'm out of rifle ammo, switching to pistol. I can't hold them. Just a little longer. They're through. Right side, 4 tangos breaking your line. Pierce turned, saw them. 4 enemy soldiers, weapons up, closing fast. He raised his pistol. Not enough rounds, not enough time. This was it. Then, brrrrt. A sound like the sky ripping. Heavy caliber, sustained. The 4 hostiles disintegrated. Literally, torn apart by rounds so big they removed torsos. Pierce looked up. An Apache attack helicopter screamed overhead, chin gun still spinning. Behind it, 2 Blackhawks landing fast. Vanguard 6 to Pierce. We're your ride. Get those kids loaded now. Move! Pierce grabbed Webb, helped him toward the helos. Hayes, get those kids aboard! They ran. All of them. 39 children sprinting for the helicopters while the Apache circled, shredding anything that moved in the enemy position. Ash appeared from the rubble, rifle slung, limping hard. Her face was gray, blood soaking through her side where her old wound had reopened. She made it 10 meters before her legs gave out. Pierce caught her before she hit the ground. I got you. I got you. Kids, she mumbled. Get the kids. They're safe. You did it. They're all safe. He carried her to the helo. Later on the deck beside Webb, medics swarmed both of them. The last child climbed aboard. Hayes did a head count. 39! All accounted for. Go, go, go! Pierce shouted. The Blackhawks lifted. The Apache provided cover, hammering the tree line. They climbed into the sky. Away from the kill zone. Away from the compound. Away from the nightmare. Below, the enemy fired uselessly at their retreating forms. And inside the helo, surrounded by children she'd refused to abandon, Ash Keller finally closed her eyes. She didn't wake up for 16 hours. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Pierce woke up in a holding cell on a carrier stationed offshore. No trial yet. Just questions. Endless questions from people who wanted to know why he'd defied direct orders, stolen classified assets, and triggered an international incident. He gave them the same answer every time. I did what was right. They didn't like that. On the third day, Colonel Hendricks showed up. Looked older than Pierce remembered. Tired. You know you're finished, right? Hendricks said. Court-martial. Dishonorable discharge. Possible jail time. That's best case. Yeah, Pierce said. I know. Was it worth it? Pierce thought about 39 kids. Thought about Ash's face when he'd said they were extracting them. Thought about the weight of that little girl on his back as they ran. Yes, sir, he said. It was. Hendricks was quiet for a long time, then, off the record, I'm proud of you. What you did was stupid, reckless, and probably illegal, but it was also right, and we don't see much of that anymore. What happens now? Now? Hendricks stood. Now you wait, because there's about 100 congressmen arguing about whether you're a hero or a traitor. Media's eating it up, some calling you a war criminal, others want to give you a medal. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, the kids are safe. All 39. They're being processed, reunited with families where possible, because of you. He left. Pierce sat alone in the cell, waited. 2 days later, the door opened again. Not Hendricks this time, a civilian, suit, government smile. Sergeant Pierce, my name's irrelevant. What matters is what I'm authorized to offer. He sat down. The charges are being dropped. Full pardon. You'll be quietly returned to active duty with your rank intact. Pierce blinked. Why? Because 39 children lived, because the press loves a hero story, and because it turns out the man you helped, the asset you extracted alongside those children, she's more valuable than anyone realized. The suit leaned forward. Ghost 13 is being reassigned. New protocols, no more solo missions. Command has decided she works better with support. Specifically, your support. What? You're being assigned to her permanently. You, Hayes, Webb, new unit, black level clearance. Your job, keep her alive, keep her effective, and keep her from going rogue again. Pierce laughed, couldn't help it. You're giving me a babysitting detail? We're giving you the most dangerous operator in our arsenal and asking you to make sure she doesn't burn out before she's 30. The suit stood. Take the deal, Sergeant. It's the only one you're getting. Pierce thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Where is she now? Medical, recovering. She's been asking for you. Then let's go. He found her on a hospital ship, sitting in a bed too big for her frame, staring out at the ocean. She looked better. Color back in her face. Wounds bandaged properly. But her eyes were different. Less flat. More human. Hey, Pierce said. She turned, smiled, actually smiled. Hey, heard you've been asking about me. Yeah, wanted to make sure they didn't execute you or something. Close, but apparently I'm too useful. He sat in the chair beside her bed. They're assigning us together, permanent detail. I heard. She picked at her blanket. You don't have to say yes. I know what I am, what working with me means. Yeah, you're a pain in the ass who doesn't follow orders and makes decisions that terrify brass. Pierce met her eyes. You're also the reason 39 kids are alive. The reason 48 soldiers made it home from Blackridge. The reason I still believe there's something worth fighting for in this war. Her eyes got wet. She blinked hard. Those kids, she said quietly, the ones we saved, I keep thinking, if someone had done that for me, when I was 14, if someone had said no, refused the order, chosen me over the mission. She trailed off. Pierce reached over, put his hand on hers. You saved them, he said, and you saved yourself. That's what matters. She nodded, wiped her eyes. So, partners? Partners, Pierce agreed. But new rules, no more going in alone, no more bleeding out in towers. We do this together or not at all? Deal. She held out her hand. Thanks, Sergeant, for everything. He shook it. Nolan? If we're doing this, you call me Nolan. Okay? Nolan. She smiled again. Wider this time. And you call me Ash. Not Ghost. Not Ghost 13. Just Ash. All right, Ash. He stood. Get some rest. When you're clear, we've got work to do. What kind of work? The kind that actually means something. He left her there, looking out at the water, looking like someone who'd finally found something she'd been searching for without knowing it. A choice. A chance. A way forward that didn't end with her dying alone in some forgotten city. And as Pierce walked the corridors of the ship, heading back to meet Hayes and Webb, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not for the war, not for victory, but for the people fighting it. The ones who chose humanity over orders. The ones who stood up when everyone else sat down. The ones who proved that even in the darkest places, even when the whole world said no, someone could still say yes, and mean it. The new unit didn't have a name, just a number buried in classified files and a requisition code that made quartermasters nervous. They operated out of a repurposed intelligence station called Site 7, concrete bunker built into a hillside, surrounded by razor wire and cameras that never blinked. Pierce arrived first. Hayes and Webb showed up 6 hours later, looking like they'd been through the same bureaucratic meat grinder. They gathered in what passed for a briefing room, metal table, folding chairs, coffee that tasted like motor oil. So, Webb said, dropping his pack, we're really doing this, babysitting the most dangerous teenager in the Northern Theater. She's 20 now, Hayes corrected. Birthday was last week. Oh well, that changes everything. Webb poured coffee, grimaced. We're babysitting a dangerous 20-year-old, much better. Pierce sat down. She's our partner, not a child, not a liability. We clear on that? Clear, Hayes said. But Sarge, Nolan, we should talk about what happened. At the compound, she was ready to fight us, ready to die rather than follow orders. Yeah, I was there. So what happens next time? When command tells us to do something and she says no? Whose side are we on? Pierce looked at his coffee, thought about 39 kids, thought about the suit's offer, thought about Ash's face when she'd said, I know what I am. We're on the side that keeps people alive, he said finally. Command Ash. Whoever's making the call that saves the most lives. That's the only side that matters. Webb shook his head. That's going to get complicated real fast. Yeah, Pierce agreed. Probably. The door opened. Ash walked in. She moved better now, healing properly, eating regularly, sleeping in actual beds. But she still carried herself like someone expecting a fight. Shoulders tight, eyes scanning, ready. She looked at the three of them. So, we doing this? We're doing this, Pierce said. Have a seat. She sat, folded her hands on the table. Professional. Like she was at a job interview instead of forming a unit that would operate outside normal command structure. First things first, Pierce said. Ground rules. You don't go anywhere alone anymore. Not missions, not scouting, not even the damn mess hall. One of us is always with you. That's not how I work. That's how you work now. You want to save people? Great. But you don't get to die doing it. Not on my watch. Ash's jaw tightened. Pierce? Nolan. Fine. Nolan. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you can't protect me and let me do my job. Those things are mutually exclusive. Then we change the job. He leaned forward. You're the best sniper I've ever seen. Maybe the best anyone's seen. But you're not invincible. Black Ridge. You took a round to the shoulder. Firebase Sentinel. Ribs. The compound. You almost bled out. How many more times before your luck runs out? That's not luck. That's acceptable risk. It's suicide in slow motion. Hayes cut in, voice sharp. And we're not watching that happen, so either you adapt or this partnership ends before it starts. Ash looked between them. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or disbelief that anyone cared enough to argue. You really think you can keep up with me? She asked quietly. Webb grinned. Only one way to find out. She studied them, then slowly nodded. All right, we try it your way. But first mission that goes sideways because you're slowing me down won't happen, Pierce said. You don't know that. Yeah, I do, because we trained for this, same as you. Maybe not as young, maybe not as... He searched for words. Intensely. But we're good at what we do, and we learn fast. Ash was quiet for a moment, then, show me. What? Your files, your records. If we're partners, I want to know who I'm working with. Fair enough. Pierce pulled up his tablet, slid it across. Nolan Pierce, 12 years in, 4 deployments, expert marksman, survived 3 separate incidents that should have killed me because I listened to my gut instead of doctrine. Hayes went next. Danny Hayes, 8 years, specialist in urban combat and close quarters battle. Purple Heart from Mosul, slight hand tremor from nerve damage, but it doesn't affect my shooting. Marcus Webb, 10 years, heavy weapons and demolitions. Transfer from Frost Valley after losing most of my unit. Got a daughter I haven't seen in 14 months because I keep volunteering for deployments I probably shouldn't. Ash absorbed this. Then she pulled out her own tablet, hesitated. My file's mostly redacted, she said. You already know that, but I can tell you what's not in there. They waited. My real name is Ash Keller. I'm from Montana, small town. Dad was a hunting guide. Taught me to shoot when I was 6. By 10, I could outshoot anyone in the county. Her voice went distant. When I was 13, recruiters showed up. Said they'd seen my scores, my aptitude tests. They made it sound like an opportunity, a scholarship, serve my country, make my family proud. How old were you when you realized what they'd actually signed you up for? Pierce asked. 14, when the real training started. When they stopped pretending it was school and started calling it what it was, conditioning. She looked at her hands. They broke us down, rebuilt us. 47 kids went in. Most didn't make it. The ones who did, we weren't the same people anymore. Hayes, what happened to the ones who didn't make it? Some washed out, got reassigned. Some had breakdowns. 2 tried to kill themselves. 1 succeeded. Ash's voice stayed flat, clinical, like she was reading a report. The program director said it was unfortunate but necessary, that we were learning valuable lessons about stress and pressure, that the strong would emerge stronger. That's not training, Webb said. That's abuse. Yeah, but it made me really good at killing people, so I guess it worked. The room went cold. Ash, Pierce said carefully, you know that's not... I'm not looking for sympathy. She cut him off. I'm telling you this so you understand. I don't know how to be normal. I don't know how to turn it off. When I'm not on mission, I'm training for the next one. When I'm not training, I'm planning, calculating, looking for threats. She met his eyes. I don't have hobbies. I don't have friends. I barely remember what it's like to just exist without purpose, without a target. Silence settled. Then Hayes. You have friends now, whether you like it or not. Ash blinked. What? Us. We're your friends. That's how this works. He stood, grabbed the coffee pot, poured her a cup. You're stuck with us, and we're stuck with you. So you better get used to existing, at least a little bit. She took the coffee, stared at it like she'd never seen one before. I don't know how to do that, she said quietly. Then we'll figure it out together, Pierce said. Starting now. First order of business, downtime. Real downtime. No training, no missions, just being human. I have a mission brief, which doesn't start for 3 days, so we have time. He stood. Come on, we're going to the mess hall. We're eating food that doesn't come in MRE packets, and we're talking about normal things, movies, music, whatever normal people talk about. I don't watch movies. Then we'll teach you. Webb grabbed his jacket. Let's go. And Ash? That's an order. She looked at them like they'd lost their minds, but she stood, followed them out. And for the first time in 6 years, Ash Keller did something that wasn't directly related to killing. She had dinner with friends. The next 72 hours were strange. They ate together, trained together. Hayes taught Ash how to play cards. She was terrible at it, couldn't bluff to save her life, but she kept trying. Webb showed her his daughter's photos, talked about normal life, normal problems. Pierce just listened, watched her slowly, painfully learn how to be around people who didn't want something from her. She was awkward, made weird jokes that landed wrong, didn't understand social cues. But she tried, and that mattered. On the third day, the mission brief arrived. They gathered in the briefing room. New faces this time, Colonel Hendricks and a woman Pierce didn't recognize. Mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She introduced herself as Director Cassidy. No first name, no agency affiliation. "Let's talk about Vostok Station," Cassidy said, pulling up satellite imagery. Abandoned research facility, northern wastes, approximately 400 kilometers from any friendly position. The images showed a sprawling complex buried in snow, massive, industrial, wrong. 3 weeks ago, Cassidy continued, we intercepted communications suggesting Vostok has been reactivated, not by us, by a splinter group operating outside normal command structures. We don't know what they're doing there, but intel suggests it's biochemical in nature. Bioweapons? Hayes asked. Possibly, or something worse. She tapped another image. This was taken 6 days ago. The screen showed thermal signatures, dozens of them. Human-shaped but wrong somehow, moving patterns that didn't look natural. "What am I looking at?" Pierce asked. "We don't know. That's the problem." Cassidy turned to Ash. "We're sending a small team to investigate, gather intel, if possible, neutralize the facility. Ghost 13, your tactical lead." Ash straightened. "Team composition?" "You 4, plus 2 specialists, biochemical expert, and a tech operator. 6 total." "Well, that's not enough for a facility that size. It's all you're getting. This mission is deniable. If you're caught, compromised, or killed, we never sent you. Understood?" Pierce felt his jaw clench. "You're sending us into a potential bioweapon site with no backup and no extraction plan?" "Extraction plan depends on what you find. If it's containable, we extract. If it's not," Cassidy's expression didn't change, "then you make sure it doesn't leave that facility, by any means necessary." "Webb, you're asking us to die there if things go wrong. I'm asking you to ensure whatever's happening at Vostok doesn't spread. How you accomplish that is up to you." She looked at Ash. "Ghost 13, are you mission capable?" Ash glanced at Pierce, then back at Cassidy. "Yes, ma'am, but I have conditions." The room went still. "Conditions?" Cassidy's voice went cold. "You don't get to make conditions, Operative. You follow orders." "I follow orders that make sense," Ash interrupted. "And this one doesn't. 6 people against an unknown threat in a facility designed to hold hundreds? We need better intelligence. We need contingencies. You need to do your job." Cassidy stepped forward. "I've read your file, all of it, including the parts where you went rogue, refused orders, endangered operations because you thought you knew better than your superiors." She leaned in. "Let me be clear. You're on a short leash. One more incident, and you're done. Reassigned, discharged. Whatever keeps you from being a problem." Ash didn't flinch. "Then discharge me, because I'm not walking my team into a death trap without proper planning." "Your team?" Cassidy looked at Pierce. "Since when do assets have teams? Since when do you make decisions?" "Since I realize people die when I don't." Ash's voice stayed level. "You want me to do this mission? Fine. But we do it smart. We do it right. And we all come home. Those are my conditions." Cassidy's face went red. "Colonel Hendricks, control your operative before—" "She makes a fair point," Hendricks cut in. 6 operators against unknown opposition is suicide. We should at least give them proper support." "We don't have support to give. Resources are stretched, priorities have shifted, and this mission is low tier compared to bot." "Then make it high tier," Pierce stood. "Whatever's at Vostok scared you enough to send us. Scared you enough to brief it yourself instead of delegating, so either it matters or it doesn't. Which is it?" Cassidy glared at him. "You're out of line, Sergeant." "Yeah, I'm aware. But I'm also not sending my people into a grinder because command's too cheap to allocate proper resources. Your people? Cassidy's voice could have cut steel. They're not your people. They're military assets, tools. And tools don't question how they're used. Tools break, Ash said quietly. And when they do, you lose the job. So either you give us what we need to succeed, or you find someone else to throw away. The silence was deafening. Cassidy and Ash locked eyes. Neither blinked. Finally, Hendricks cleared his throat. Director, perhaps a compromise. We give them 24 hours for reconnaissance, proper satellite imaging, thermal mapping. That gives us better intel and improves their odds. Fine. Cassidy bit the word off. 24 hours. But that's it. After that, you go, with or without perfect intelligence. Agreed? Ash looked at Pierce. He nodded. Agreed, she said. Good. Cassidy gathered her files. You deploy in 72 hours. Don't make me regret this. She left. The door slammed behind her. Hendricks exhaled. You three realize you just picked a fight with one of the most powerful people in Northern Command, right? Yes, sir, Pierce said. And you did it anyway? Yes, sir. Why? Because she's wrong. And because if we're going to die, we're doing it on our terms, not hers. Hendricks studied them. Then he smiled. Thin. Tired. You know what? I've spent 23 years following orders I hated, watching good people get used up. Maybe it's about time someone pushed back. He stood. I'll get you your recon, best intel available, but after that you're on your own. Understood? Understood, Ash said. And sir? Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen Vostok. They spent the next 3 days preparing. Recon came through, detailed thermal scans, structural blueprints, radiation readings. What they showed was worse than expected. Vostok wasn't just active, it was busy. Dozens of heat signatures, organized movement, and radiation spikes that suggested something volatile in the lower levels. The team assembled 72 hours later. 6 people, 4 Pierce knew, 2 he didn't. Dr. Sarah Chen, biochemical specialist, late 30s, looked like she belonged in a university lecture hall instead of a combat zone. But her eyes were sharp, focused. Specialist Marcus Trick Delgado, tech operator, mid-20s, baby face, but hands that moved over keyboards like concert pianists. He'd cracked enemy encryption for fun during his downtime. They gathered in the staging area. Gear laid out, weapons checked. Nobody talking much. Ash stood apart, studying a holographic display of Vostok. Her fingers traced entry points, vulnerabilities, escape routes. Pierce approached. You ready? No, she said honestly. This feels wrong. Too many unknowns, too many variables. Then why are we doing it? Because if we don't, someone else will, and they'll probably die. She looked at him. At least with us, they have a chance. That's a hell of a lot of weight to carry. Yeah, she turned back to the display. But I've carried worse. Hayes joined them. Transport's ready. We're wheels up in 20. Copy. Ash pulled on her jacket, checked her rifle one more time, then paused. Nolan, if this goes bad, if it turns out Cassidy was right, and this is a suicide run, it won't. But if it does, she met his eyes. Don't let them bury me in some classified file. Don't let them pretend I didn't exist. Promise me. Pierce felt something crack in his chest. Ash, promise me. I promise. But you're coming back. We all are. She nodded, didn't look convinced. They loaded into the transport. 6 people, minimal support, maximum risk. As they lifted off, Pierce looked around at his team. Webb checking demolition charges. Hayes running comms protocols, Chen reviewing biohazard procedures, Delgado syncing their tac pads, and Ash, sitting quietly, rifle across her lap, eyes distant. They'd all volunteered for this, knowing the odds, knowing the risks, because that's what you did when the alternative was watching from the sidelines while people died. The transport banked north, toward frozen wastes, toward Vostok, toward whatever waited in the dark. And as the sun disappeared behind them, Pierce thought about Cassidy's words. Tools don't question how they're used. Maybe not, but they sure as hell questioned why. And if the answer wasn't good enough, if the mission didn't serve something bigger than bureaucracy and body counts, then maybe it was time for the tools to put themselves away, before someone else did it for them. Vostok Station appeared through the snow like a corpse rising from a grave. Massive, industrial, wrong. The compound sprawled across 2 square kilometers, main research building at the center, surrounded by auxiliary structures, all connected by covered walkways half buried in ice. Security fencing, guard towers, lights still burning despite the facility supposedly being abandoned. They landed 5 clicks out, approached on foot, silent, professional. Ash took point. Pierce followed. The rest spread in tactical formation. Thermal scans picked up movement inside the main building. Lots of it. But the patterns were off. Too synchronized, too mechanical, like watching ants instead of people. "That's not normal patrol behavior," Chen whispered. "They're moving in shifts, rotating, like they're protecting something." "Or guarding it," Delgado added. "I'm picking up electronic emissions, heavy encryption. Someone's communicating constantly." They reached the outer fence. Ash examined it. Motion sensors, thermal cameras, pressure plates. She pointed. "But there, maintenance access. Looks clear." Webb cut the fence. They slipped through, crossed the open ground, entered the first auxiliary building. Empty, but recently occupied. Food wrappers, cigarette butts, sleeping bags still warm. "Someone was here," Hayes said. "Left in a hurry." They pushed deeper, building to building, each one abandoned but lived in, like the occupants had vanished mid-routine. Finally, they reached the main research facility. Ash tried the door, locked. Delgado went to work. 60 seconds later, click. They entered. The smell hit them first. Chemicals, rot. Something underneath that made Chen's face go pale. "That's hydrogen sulfide," she whispered, "and organic decay. Lots of it." They moved through corridors, emergency lights casting everything in red. Their boots echoed. Then Ash stopped, held up a fist. Voices ahead. Not English. Russian, but wrong somehow. Monotone. Rehearsed. Pierce signaled. "Hold position." They waited. 2 figures walked past an intersection ahead, dressed in hazmat suits, moving in perfect synchronization. After they passed, the team advanced, reached the intersection, looked, and Pierce's blood went cold. A laboratory, massive, filled with equipment that belonged in science fiction, and in the center, pods. Dozens of them, human-sized, filled with something, liquid, bodies suspended inside, some moving, some not. "What the hell?" Webb breathed. Chen moved forward, examined the nearest pod. Her hands shook. This is genetic modification, neural reconstruction. They're trying to..." The body in the pod opened its eyes. Pierce jerked back. The thing, because it wasn't human anymore, not really, stared at him. No recognition, no awareness, just emptiness. "We need to leave," Chen said. "Right now. This whole facility is..." Alarms erupted. Red lights, sirens, voices shouting in Russian. "They know we're here," Delgado yelled. "Lockdown initiated." Doors slammed shut. Automated. Ceiling sections. "Move!" Ash sprinted toward the exit. They ran. Hayes and Webb laying down covering fire as figures in hazmat suits emerged from side corridors. Not attacking, just watching, following. More doors closing, trapping them. "We're being herded," Pierce realized. "They're pushing us toward the..." They burst into a central chamber and stopped. A man stood waiting, tall, gray hair, lab coat stained with things Pierce didn't want to identify. His eyes were calm, almost amused. "Welcome," he said in accented English. "I've been expecting you." Ash raised her rifle. "Who are you?" "Dr. Viktor Sokolov, director of this facility." "And you?" He smiled. "You're Ghost 13, the weapon that thinks." "How fascinating." "What is this place?" Chen demanded. "What are you doing here?" "Progress," Sokolov said simply. "We're creating the next evolution of warfare. Soldiers who don't question, don't hesitate, Don't break under pressure. He gestured toward the pods visible through the observation windows. Perfect weapons. Perfect obedience. Ash's face went white. You're making more of me. Better than you. No trauma. No doubt. No pesky moral complications. Sokolov took a step forward. You are a prototype, fascinating, but flawed. You still care, still feel, still question. His smile widened. Our subjects won't have that problem. Pierce aimed his weapon. We're burning this place to the ground. I expected you'd say that, which is why... Sokolov pressed a button. The pods opened, and what came out wasn't human anymore. They moved like nightmares given form. 15 subjects poured from the pods, human-shaped but wrong in every way that mattered. Skin gray, eyes vacant, movements too fluid, too precise, like machines wearing flesh. They wore combat fatigues but no expression, no fear, no hesitation, just purpose. Fall back, Pierce screamed. The team scattered. Ash fired first, center mass on the nearest subject. It stumbled, kept coming. She adjusted. Headshot. The subject dropped, but 14 more surged forward. Webb opened up with his saw. The heavy weapon tore into them, bodies shredded. But they didn't stop, didn't slow, just kept advancing through the hail of bullets until catastrophic damage finally dropped them. They don't feel pain, Chen yelled. Neural modification. They're running on pure programming. Delgado, Pierce fired, dropped 2. Can you lock the doors? Trying. The tech operator's fingers flew across his pad. Systems got... There! A door slammed shut, cut off 5 subjects. That won't hold long. Hayes threw a grenade. The explosion turned 3 subjects into meat, but more emerged from side corridors. 20, 30. The facility was full of them. Ash grabbed Pierce's shoulder. We can't fight them all. We need to destroy the facility. Burn it. Now. Sokolov laughed from somewhere above. His voice echoed through speakers. You think you're the first to try? This facility has redundancies, fail-safes. Even if you breach the reactor, containment protocols will... Shut up! Webb fired upward, shattered speakers. The voice cut off. Chen! Pierce pulled her behind cover as subjects closed in. How do we sterilize this place? Fire won't work. Too much concrete. Explosives might collapse it, but... She looked at the observation windows, at the massive machinery beyond. The genetic modification chambers. They use liquid nitrogen and viral catalysts. If we rupture the tanks, mix the compounds, it'll create a chain reaction. Highly toxic, highly volatile. How toxic? Everything dies. Us included if we're still here. Pierce looked at his team, at Ash, at the impossible odds, made his decision. Webb, how much explosive you carrying? Enough to make a statement. Why? Because we're making the biggest one possible. Pierce keyed his radio. Everyone listen, we rig the tanks, set charges on a timer. 5 minutes. Then we run like hell and hope we're fast enough. That's insane, Hayes said. Yeah, you got a better idea? Silence. Didn't think so. Move! They fought their way to the main lab. Ash provided cover. Every shot perfect. Every target dropped. But there were too many. For every subject they killed, 2 more appeared. Webb reached the nitrogen tanks, started placing charges. This is going to be close! A subject grabbed him from behind, locked arms around his throat. Webb struggled. Couldn't break free. Ash shot the subject through the head. It dropped. Webb gasped. Thanks. Keep working. She fired again. Again. Her magazine ran dry. She dropped it, reloaded, never stopped moving. Hayes covered the door, holding back the flood. We've got maybe 2 minutes before they overrun us. Done. Webb activated the charges. 5 minutes on the clock. Go, go, go. They ran. Back through corridors, subjects pursuing. The facility groaning around them like it knew what was coming. Delgado hit controls as they passed. Sealed doors behind them. Bought seconds. Chen stumbled. Pierce caught her. Kept her moving. Ash brought up rear, firing, covering. When she ran out of rifle ammo, she switched to her sidearm. When that ran dry, she picked up a fallen subject's weapon. Kept fighting. They burst into the outer corridor, exit visible ahead. 60 subjects between them and freedom. We'll never make it, Hayes breathed. Ash looked at Pierce. Something passed between them. Understanding, decision. Yes, we will, she said quietly. Then louder. Everyone get to the exit. I'll clear the path. Ash, no. That's not a request. She grabbed a belt of grenades from Webb's pack. I'm faster alone, you know it. I know it. She met Pierce's eyes. Trust me. One more time. We don't leave people behind. That's the rule. The rule is we all survive. This is how. She shoved him toward the exit. Run. When you hear the explosions, you go through. Don't wait. Don't look back. Ash! She was already moving, sprinting toward the subjects. They turned, focused on her, the threat, the weapon they recognized. She threw the first grenade. Explosion, bodies, chaos. Second grenade, third, creating a gap. Pierce grabbed his team. Move! They ran. Through the gap Ash created, toward the exit. Behind them, gunfire, explosions. The sound of one person fighting an army. Nolan! Ash's voice through the radio. Static. Gunfire. Doors clear! Go! They hit the exit, burst into frozen air. Ash, get out of there! Working on it. Her voice cut off. Returned. Little busy. The charges. You've got 2 minutes. I know. More gunfire. Then, there's too many. I can't. She stopped. When she spoke again, her voice was different, calmer. Nolan, get everyone to minimum safe distance. Make sure they're clear. Pierce's blood went cold. Don't you dare. Tell Webb his daughter's lucky to have him. Tell Hayes that tremor doesn't define him. Tell Chen her work matters. Pause. And tell yourself I chose this. Nobody made me. Nobody forced me. I chose. Ash, please. You promised. You promised you wouldn't let them bury me in a file. Keep that promise. Her voice cracked. And Nolan? Thank you for seeing me. Not the weapon. Not the asset. Just me. Ash. The radio went dead. 1 minute left. Pierce stood frozen, every instinct screaming to go back, to find her, to... Hayes grabbed him. Nolan, we have to go. Now. I can't leave her. We don't have a choice. Hayes pulled. She made hers. Don't let it be for nothing. They ran, away from Vostok, into the frozen waste. 30 seconds. 20. 10. The facility erupted. Not fire. Worse. A chemical explosion that turned the air itself toxic. Green vapor billowing. Glass shattering. Structure collapsing inward like a dying star. The shockwave hit them, threw them forward. Pierce hit the snow hard, rolled, came up gasping, turned back. Vostok Station was gone. Just a crater, steam rising, nothing left, nothing alive. No, Pierce whispered. No, no, no. Sart, Webb's voice, broken. She's gone. Pierce stood, stared at the ruins, at the place where Ash Keller had made her last stand, the girl they'd laughed at, the weapon they'd underestimated, the person who'd chosen humanity over orders, over survival, over everything, gone. Hayes put a hand on his shoulder, didn't say anything, didn't need to. They stood there, 4 soldiers and a doctor and a tech operator, alive because one person decided their lives mattered more than her own. The extraction came 6 hours later. Hendricks met them personally, took one look at their faces and knew. Ghost 13? He asked quietly. Didn't make it, Pierce said. Voice flat, dead. She stayed behind, bought us time, saved the mission. Hendricks closed his eyes. Damn. They flew back in silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody could. When they landed, Cassidy was waiting, face like stone. Report, she demanded. Pierce looked at her, really looked. Saw someone who'd sent a 20-year-old to die and called it duty. Vostok is destroyed, he said. The biomodification program is terminated. All subjects eliminated. Dr. Sokolov is dead. Mission complete. And Ghost 13? KIA died ensuring mission success. Cassidy absorbed this. Her body? Vaporized, nothing to recover. I see. She made notes on her pad. We'll file the appropriate paperwork, classified casualty. Next of kin will receive a letter stating she died in training. Standard protocol. Something snapped inside Pierce. No? Cassidy looked up. Excuse me? I said no. He stepped forward. Her name was Ash Keller. She was 20 years old. She saved 96 lives over her career. She died a hero. And you're not burying that in some classified file. Sergeant, you don't have the authority. Then court-martial me. Discharge me. Do whatever you want. But her story doesn't end with a lie. His voice rose. She was a person, not a weapon, not a tool. A person who deserved better than what we gave her. And she's going to be remembered. I'll make damn sure of it. Silence. Cassidy stared at him. Then, slowly, she put away her pad. You're out of line, Sergeant. Yeah, I'm aware. But, she paused. You're also right. Ghost 13 Ash Keller deserves recognition. I'll see what I can do. She turned to leave. Stopped. For what it's worth? I'm sorry. She was exceptional. She left. Hendricks approached. You know this isn't over, right? Command's going to ask questions, demand explanations. Let them ask. Pierce looked at his team. We'll answer. Together. And then? Then we keep going, keep fighting, keep making sure what happened to Ash doesn't happen to anyone else. Hendricks nodded. I can get behind that. He extended his hand. Pierce shook it. Try it. 3 months later, Pierce stood in front of a memorial wall. They'd built it at Site 7. Black granite, names engraved, soldiers who'd died serving, who'd made the ultimate sacrifice. And at the top, freshly carved, Ash Keller. Ghost 13, she chose to save others. It wasn't enough, could never be enough. But it was something. Hayes appeared beside him. Webb's daughter is visiting next week. He's finally taking leave, going home. Good. He needs it. Chen's transferring, going back to research. Says she wants to make sure what Sokolov did never happens again. And you? Hayes was quiet. I'm staying. Someone has to make sure the next kid who gets recruited doesn't end up like Ash. Someone has to ask the questions, push back. Pierce nodded. Yeah, someone does. They stood together. Silent tribute to a girl who'd never learned how to be normal, who'd been forged into a weapon before she'd had a chance to be anything else, but who in the end had chosen who she wanted to be. Not Ghost 13, not a tool, just Ash, making the hardest choice, for the right reasons. Think she knew? Hayes asked. That we'd remember her? Yeah, Pierce said. I think she knew. Behind them, new recruits trained, young faces, eager, ready to serve. Pierce watched them, made himself a promise. Never again. Never again would they turn children into weapons. Never again would they sacrifice humanity for efficiency. And if Command didn't like it, well, they'd already shown what happened when tools stopped accepting how they were used. They put themselves away. Or they changed the hands holding them. The sun set over Site 7. Another day done. Another mission complete. But this time, the victory tasted different, because someone had paid a price that should never have been asked. And everyone who survived would spend the rest of their lives making sure it meant something, making sure she wasn't forgotten, making sure the girl who'd been underestimated, dismissed, and mocked, the girl who'd saved them all, would be remembered not for what they'd made her, but for what she'd chosen to be. Human, flawed, real, and brave enough to prove that strength doesn't come from never breaking. It comes from choosing to stand back up, even when the whole world says you should stay down, even when staying down would be easier, even when standing costs everything. Ash Keller understood that, and in the end, she'd taught it to everyone who'd ever doubted her, not with words, but with the only language that ever really mattered: action, sacrifice, choice. The memorial wall caught the last light of day, her name gleaming, permanent, and somewhere in the wind, in the silence, in the space between heartbeats, her legacy lived on, not in files, not in reports, in the people she'd saved, and the lives she'd changed, forever. True strength isn't about never falling. It's about choosing to rise, even when the cost is everything, and proving that one person willing to stand can change the world.